First things first, Brad Beal Elite. Why is that such an important organization for you?
Well, for one, it's my way of giving back. It's my way of staying connected to St. Louis. It's my way of staying connected to the youth. And it's through basketball, something I love to do. It's what I'm passionate about. And originally, it was the St. Louis Eagles. You know, it's the AU team I played for and came up always wanting to be a part of. And I always told myself that when I was finished, I would always come back and give back to this program, whether it was coaching, financially, or whatever the case may have been, just impacting it some way because I feel like I wouldn't have made it to the league without the Eagles and without Coach Gray. You know, Rich Gray founded the Eagles, and he passed away a year or two ago. And our and for me, ever since then, I kind of wanted to take it to where we are now. But before then, I always like Rich Gray. He was the first man to tell me that I had the abilities to make it to the NBA. It wasn't my mom, it wasn't my dad, it was Coach Gray. And for the first time, like that was like I was like, damn, like somebody actually believes in me, like somebody sees it, outside of my family. Like my mom and dad, I lied. My mom and dad tell me all the time, but they're supposed to tell you that. You know what I'm saying? And but when you hear it from other people, you hear it from your coach, somebody who Larry Hughes is his uncle. Larry's in the league, David Lee's in the league. Like he coached all these guys and put them in the league. And so it's like, damn, like if he says it, I have a chance. And so like that clicked for me at that point to boom, want to work hard, want to be the best that I can be, but then turn around and understand the impact that he had on me and do that twofold to the generation after me. So that's what it means to me in a nutshell, man. It's just I wanna be impactful and continue Coach Gray's legacy.
And I know a player like yourself and a man like yourself, you're busy. You have a lot of things that you have to do within a 24-hour day. Why is it such an important factor for you to make sure you block out time in your off season to come home and coach these kids in person or just meet them face to face?
Because I didn't have it when I played. When we came up, like we didn't have the NBA guys or college guys coming back and teaching us the game. We had our old heads that are still around today. They were hustling, and the same principles that they taught Larry and taught the guys before me, like is the same thing they taught me. They taught Jay, and they're teaching all the guys that are coming after him. So it's like that's what we're built on. But I never had that leadership. I never had that young, I guess, kind of mentor that I can look up to. As you get older, our generation gets older. The younger generation, they feed off of kind of their peers and guys that they can like immediately look up to, versus an older man who's been knowing the game for 50 plus years. They're not listening to that. But if I come in and tell them something, or Jay comes in and tells them something, their eyes are alert and they're all ears. They're listening, and it could be the exact same thing that the coach told them, but because it's coming from us and because it's coming from somebody who they view as a star, as a mentor, it's a different feeling. And so I got that and I understood that, and seeing how that impacted the kids and understanding that what I say can really get through to them, even though what the coaches are doing is the exact same thing. Like I have to take that and try to make the kids understand that at a younger age and understand that as they get older, it ain't gonna be like that all the time. You can't just ignore the coach. You can't just ignore your college coach. You can't just ignore your NBA coach or your overseas coach. Like you're gonna be sitting down, you're gonna be traded, da 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 da. So it's just I seen that as I got older, as I got to the league, and I never had that. And I know that if I can just instill that and pull some guys with me, because we from St. Louis, we don't make it out. You play football, you play basketball, you know the odds are always against us. And so I just want to beat those odds, show everybody I beat those odds, and you guys can too if you just follow the path.
Now, when you first walked into the gym and you saw those players face to face for the first time, I'm pretty sure they were star shocked from seeing you. What was their reaction like, and were they more receptive to learn, like you said, as soon as you walked in the gym?
They were definitely more receptive, and that's what's kind of so mind-boggling and everything. But at the same time, you understand it because I'm an NBA player. They see me as I'm at the highest level I'm playing against their favorite players. I'm making a lot of money. I probably got a big house call. Everything that that you can possibly imagine. That's what they're thinking. And so, for me, I don't think like that. But for me, it's definitely it's a humbling experience because to me, I ain't ish in the league yet. I ain't did nothing. I haven't made my mark. And for them to know who I am, for them to be fans of me was very humbling, and it definitely pushed me to where I am now. And it pushed me to want to just give back to them more and help them get to where I am because it's possible. All these kids that I look at that play on my team year in and year out dream of being where I am today. And some actually are. Like, that's ironic to me. Like, it's Jason, Darius Garland, Tyler Cook, Ben McLemore, like guys I've played against, guys I played with, like guys I've coached are at the same level I'm at. And so I'm just trying to keep that ship moving and just keep that message going that it's possible, man. It is possible.
Now, when you look at the athletic complex that's coming up, and you're going to have your own type of basketball arena that's going to be out there, you also have your basketball arena that you're building at Chaminade. What do you want to be known for in St. Louis in the basketball world besides this star-studded athlete?
Man, I just want to give everybody an opportunity. Like I came up and went to Chaminade, and to me, my reason of giving back to Chaminade is being a young black male at an all-white school, being able to do so. Being able to financially do this, being able to leave a landmark here at a school that's been here for a century, more than a century. So, uh, and on top of that, like our gym sucked. And so I hated playing at our gym. Our floor was always slippery. We always had one of the best teams in the state. And I'm like, we got to reward our boys. Like we're one of the best teams. We got a nice football field now, a nice baseball field. Everything is getting upgraded at the school. And so I kind of just put it on my shoulders. Like, all right, we gotta take care of the hoops. And as far as the complex, man, it's going to be so much bigger than my AAU program. And I think that's what I'm mostly excited about. Like we're still working out a lot of the logistics of what we want to really turn it into because it's so much. Like it's way bigger than the sports complex. It's going to be an education center. It's going to be the go-to spot. Like I don't want to give it all in detail, but it's going to be the go-to spot in so many ways, and I'm excited for it. It's definitely going to come to fruition. And for me, it's just leaving a legacy. Like I said, just giving everybody an opportunity, to be able to use hoops as a way out, as a source, as a place of peace, as a love, as a passion, whatever it may be. You can go for it. And even at the complex, it's bigger than just basketball. It's all type of sports. It's different educations. It's different. Oh man, it's school possibilities. It's church. It's all type of stuff. So it's gonna be that's gonna be the spot.
I was talking to Ray a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me some of the things that you had in the works, and my mind was just blown away because you get it. You get life outside of the basketball court, and that's something that I always try and preach to the younger generation. So with you and your Brad Beal elite team, and how they were just at the YMCA giving back the other day, what do you want them to take away from your team and your program, and not just from the basketball aspect, but from life?
It's funny because I think COVID and the George Floyd situation and kind of the time that we're in now kind of helped everybody kind of sit back and realize that, sports isn't everything. We can't just use sports as a distraction. We can't just use sports always as just a way out because life goes on. We deal with these tragedies, we deal with these adversities on a daily basis. And so for me, it's we have a platform, my guys have a platform, and we're blessed as kids and as athletes at a young age, and we take it for granted. We're here. We are as kids. All we have to do is go play basketball and go to school. Our parents provide everything. We don't necessarily have struggles on a day to day. And so that's our message that we're trying to just get through to our kids is, we have an opportunity to be able to impact other lives besides ourselves and besides our teammates. There's other people out here who need us. There's food that can be given out. There's essentials that people need. It's just us taking time to just hand those things out. You know, if a company is providing it, they're sponsoring it. If I'm able to provide and sponsor it, that's just us taking time out of our schedule and just providing those things that enlightens other people's days, their weeks, their months. You know, you might be able to provide for somebody who hasn't had food in a long time. You know, who haven't been able to provide for their children in a long time. So it's it's an amazing feeling, and I'm happy that the kids love and that they're embracing the idea of wanting to give back to.
What's the nicest thing one player or teammate or someone younger than you has said to you about what you have done recently and how it's motivated them to be a better person, whether it's on the basketball court or off of it?
I would say it was my three kids. So I have three kids here in DC. I sponsor a college prep school, like similar to where I went to at Chaminade, and so it's an all black school, but it's a college prep public, but it's a private school. It's weird, but they're publicly funded. So um, three of my kids, I provided scholarship money for them for their freshman year, and like it was amazing to just hear their reaction, to just see how and hear how grateful and thankful they were. Like I I'm never anyone to want to pat themselves on the back. Like I don't like compliments. I don't, I do things because I want to do it and out of the generosity of my heart. But to hear how appreciative they were and how they were going to be dedicated to school and not just sports, they were going to dedicate themselves to, being better for their parents, making them proud like that. That to me and like that pushes me and motivates me to want to do stuff outside of hoops all the time, man, because as much as I can play basketball, my career is going to be coming to an end soon, and so it's like, okay, what do you do after that? And on top of that, I have two little ones in here after look after. So it's like I have to prepare them and prepare life, for after hoops. And, I have a platform, I have the abilities, I'm able, to give back and bless others. So use my blessings to bless others. That's what my granny always told me.
All right, and I have two final questions, and I'll let you go. As a former athlete back in St. Louis, growing up, and I know the goal was to always get out. That's our message when we grew up here in the streets of St. Louis. For you, was there one thing that you wish you would have done differently as a child that you know now as an adult?
Mm, that's tough.
I figured you probably hadn't heard that one before.
That's tough. That's tough. Is there anything I would do differently?
Or anything advice that you will offer to a kid at Chaminade playing basketball right now that you wish you would have done when you were in high school playing basketball?
It was.
Because as people all know, they probably think your life was amazing all the time. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure for you, you had a lot of trials and tribulations growing up.
For sure, for sure. Like it wasn't all glitter and gold um at Chaminade. And I think that's where I guess I could, because going to what you just said, like a lot of people had the perception, like you said, that Chaminade was this, and if you went there, you were taken care of and getting a great education, which you were. But at the same time, I kind of felt like it came with this prima donna like aura about you. Like if you went to CBC, if you went to Sean, like if you went to any MCC school, you kind of had this like, oh, he's a prima donna, he's a preppy boy, he's a whatever the case may be. And I feel like I wasn't that, And granted, I never carried myself in any way differently than being who I am, but that that always kind of bothered me a little bit because I'm from Veneta Park. I'm from U City. Like right, I'm smack in the hood, just like every other black man in St. Louis. And I dealt with a lot of adversities in school, racism. I dealt with all type of stuff, and I I always thought it was odd that I always felt like it was St. Louis versus Brad, like it was the city versus Brad, and it was like, oh, if we're playing Chaminade, we're playing Brad. We ain't playing Chaminade, like, and that was always kind of like, why is it like that? But so I would say if I could tell my younger self that, like to understand that that will happen. Like for me, I went to Chaminade at sixth grade because I knew that if I'd have went to U City or if I'd have went to Normandy, I wouldn't be where I was today. And that's no knock on either of those schools because my mom taught at U City for 30 plus years. So, but I knew that I would have been beyond distracted at those schools versus being at Chaminade.
And I was the same way. I wanted to go to like the Hazelwoods and the Gateways, and no knocks to them, but my mom was like, "It's not happening." She's like, "You're going
It's
to
not
Kirkwood."
happening. Exactly. You went to Kirkwood, right?
Yeah, and I used to defend you all the time because I would talk to people and they'd be like, "Oh, Brad, he don't mess with the city," and I'm like, "Well, I was messaging Brad on Facebook in high school, and he responded. He was a normal kid, just like me." I was like, he didn't have this aura around him that he was some superstar phenom at a young age. I was like, he was humble and down to earth. So,
yeah,
it's
that's
funny
what's
that you
tough,
brought that up.
bro. And that's funny you said because I can imagine you dealt with the exact same thing because everybody
You hear
has
that you're
this.
not black enough. You're not one of
Yeah,
us.
it's like oh yeah, like you go to Chaminade, like you don't know what we deal with. Like it's like it was always BJ versus Brad. It was always BJ versus Brad, and it's like God, it's
And
like the
we
city
it's like we walk these halls of these campuses, but we leave campus and go right back to our
and go back
environment.
to our environment
Hmm. Hmm.
that we got to deal with on a daily basis. The same joint that y'all deal with, and it's like,
Exactly.
come on.
Exactly. So it's funny that you brought that up. We can relate with that. Final question that I have for you. I tend to ask Jason whenever I talk to him and other athletes, for your young kids, the way you have been vocal about the George Floyd matter and Black Lives Matter and everything else, what do you want your two young boys to remember about their dad when they're 21 years old and they're thinking back on the year 2020 and just Brad Beal himself?
That he did what was right. It comes a time where there's what's you stand up for what's right. And there's always as athletes and celebrities. We as a world we put everybody on these pedestals. We created fame. We created these things, and so it's always weird to me when people are always like, "Well, you're obligated to do this. You're obligated to do that." Not everybody feels that burden per se, but I also feel like there's a fine line between enough is enough. Like you have to speak out against just ill will, just straight wrongdoing. And I'm always going to be somebody who understands the backlash. I'm going to take the punches as they come, but I'm always going to stand up for what's right. No matter who is against it. I could be arguing with one of my family members. You could be my right hand man, but if you're wrong, your ass is wrong. Like that's just what it is. So in this situation with George Floyd, like these officers were wrong. Breonna Taylor's killers, they were wrong. And repercussions need to be had, they need to be made. And that's the example I want to set for my young boys, but it's tough too because they're not going to grow up in the same environment that I grew up in. They ain't going to grow up in UC. They ain't going to grow up in Veneta Park like I grew up in. So they growing up in damn DC in a nice ass house. And it's like, okay, how do I keep them with the mindset to understand that they're black men in this world, that this same situation can happen to them, although they don't live there. Although that you may not be there, you're going to drive a nice car when you're 16. So if you get pulled over in the Benz or in the BMW, they're going to, okay, so you're going to be able to have to be in those situations and understand how to get out of those and answer questions accordingly and how to deal with the police. But it's a task at hand. That's a task my wife and I are working on a daily because, they're two, one to be one. The other one will be one in a few weeks. So our hands are full as is with just two rugrats, but when they're getting older, it's just, preparing ourselves of how to teach them. So we got that in a game plan for sure, but it definitely won't be the same way I do it.